Hello people from the future, this is past Globku recording this video 1 week before it actually comes out. Present Globku is currently on vacation and hopefully he has decided to get a goddamn haircut at this point. Anyway, I'm making this video because future Globku is going to be at Gamescom next week. And there will be interviews for Naruto to Boruto Shinobi Striker, as well as Dragon Ball Fighterz. Now, sometimes when we get interviews scheduled, sometimes it's just, oh, there's a Q&A at the end of a presentation, there's a bunch of journalists inside a room, and everyone gets to ask and answer questions for 15 minutes. Or sometimes it's an actual one-on-one interview where you're face-to-face with the person you're interviewing, and you get to ask all you want without any interruptions. I think this time we're getting the full-on interviews and they're 30 minutes long. Hopefully they are one-on-one, but I'm not sure about that yet. But since I have a chance to ask a lot of questions about Shinobi Striker and Dragon Ball Fighterz, and you guys seem to be interested because you're subbed to this channel, I thought I'd let you guys in on this. Let me know what you want to know and I'll be asking those questions. Now, obviously, I have a ton of questions that I want to ask personally. But back before I worked in the games industry, I always had so many questions I wish that journalists would ask those people. So now I'm kind of doing what I wished other journalists did back when I didn't work in the games industry. So I'm giving you guys the chance to leave a comment and let me know what you want to ask. Now, before you write down your question, there's a couple of things to keep in mind. Please remember that our time with this interview is very precious. So asking stuff like, oh, will this character be in the game? You just won't get an answer. Because character reveals, for example, are something that people don't do in interviews. They wait for the right time to announce characters because they have deals in place. So they will just deflect the question or answer the traditional, we're not ready to announce anything yet, and we will have wasted our interview time. You see, that's the tricky part of the job. 90% of the questions that they'll get is just stuff that we already know. We've been doing research on these games for months. Most of the press hasn't, because most of the press is covering everything while we're just covering anime games. And Shinobi Striker and Dragon Ball Fighterz specifically, like, we've covered those games to death, and we'll still do that after Gamescom is done. So 90% of the questions they'll be asked during this event is stuff that we already know. The other 9% is stuff that they're not ready to announce, so we have to find the 1% of questions that they're ready to talk about it, but no one's asking. And that's what's tricky about planning interviews. Now, I've already took this topic to the DBFZ subreddit, and they've got some amazing questions over there. They've got some pretty dumb questions too, but that's okay. You guys are not the ones that need to prepare the interview. You guys are not the journalists asking questions. I am. So you're allowed to ask the dumb questions, but I'm not. So it's okay if you have dumb questions, but I'm sorry if I don't take them to the interview. And just to give you an idea of some topics that I want to cover, on Dragon Ball, it's the following. I want to talk about auto combos versus manual combos, if they'll have an option like the stylish and technical like they have in Guilty Gear. I want to ask if they're officially supporting the pro scene, like they had the tournament at EVO. Are they going to do actual tournaments when the game finally comes out? Are they going to be at EVO? I'm also going to ask some questions about the netcode. Like, I assume they're working with the Guilty Gear tech, but also it's Unreal 4 now, which that had some issues with the netcode on Tekken, so maybe, I don't know. That's why I want to ask. And then some more lighthearted questions, more casual, like characters are more powerful in Dragon Ball canon. How does that translate into a power difference in the fighting game? I want to ask about the single player experience, their plans for that. I want to ask about female fighters. Dragon Ball doesn't have a lot of female fighters. Does that bother them? Because Arc Systems has had some pretty good female characters in their fighting games, but now Dragon Ball doesn't really have a lot of awesome female characters, so does that bother them at all? Are they just gonna stay loyal, or are they gonna try to do something crazy? Maybe they'll give us a hint as to future roster characters. Speaking of roster, I want to know if they're limited by Dragon Ball Z, or if they're expanding to Dragon Ball Super, the movies and all of that. Like, I think we've gotten glimpses of that answer, but I really want to clarify it. I'm not gonna get any, oh yeah, we're announcing this character from Super, obviously. I just want to know if are Dragon Ball Super characters out of the table, because a lot of people are still saying, oh no, it's the Dragon Ball Z roster. Well, we don't actually know that. and I want to know that. And on Shinobi Striker, I want to cover the following topics. Now, character creation is a big deal, as it got recently announced. I want them to put my balance concerns to rest. I want to know how they're balancing the game around character creation. I want to know the limitations of character creation, like if you pick the attack type, are you limited to a certain number of jutsu? If you pick a Sharingan ability like the Amaterasu, can you then also pick Byakugan abilities? Because those two don't make sense in the canon. Also, speaking of which, are they even putting bloodlines in character creation? I want to know if they have any single player plans. Now, obviously, the focus of Shinobi Striker is the multiplayer, but recently there's somewhat of a story. It's just like a tournament arc. The 7th Hokage wants to know who's the strongest ninja. So hey, here's a tournament. It sounds like a throwaway story, but there could be some space for single player activities. I want to know if they're doing anything. I want to ask about their long-term plans because it's a multiplayer game, and I want to ask if they're supporting it. They'll probably just say yes, DLC and maps and balance. I want to know how important they think the roster is when there's character creation in the game, because everyone's going to be playing with their created characters. So does it even matter what characters they announce next? I want to know their thoughts on this, if they think the roster actually matters in a game that they have character creation on. And finally, some clarifications on barrier battle and capture the flag. As you guys might have noticed, I have a lot of questions on how those game modes work. And that's what I got so far. I mean, Gamescom is still next week, so I still have time to prepare. Actually, it's 2 weeks from now because this is past Globku. Present Globku is on vacation and totally not thinking about interviews. So I could add more topics depending on my research and your comments as well. I could also fit your questions into the topics that I already have. So feel free to ask anything you want to know in the comments below. Oh, I also have appointments for Ace Combat, if anyone's interested. Otherwise, I won't even cover it. And also Ni no Kuni 2, however, I just have the presentation for that. I didn't want to schedule an interview because I don't understand too much about Ni no Kuni. I feel like I should just give that slot away to someone who understands it better. No Code Vein, unfortunately. It's not going to be there. But if you have questions about Ni no Kuni or Ace Combat, feel free to ask those too. And that's all I have for you today, folks. Now, because I live in the past, I'm gonna record a video about how to use assist characters in Dragon Ball Fighterz. Hopefully that video is already out and you can watch it right here. If you're in the mood for something else, you can watch this right here. But as always, thank you very much for watching. My name's Globku, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!